but got a couple files here. Let's see if we can place them for you guys.
Again, this is Preston Galera and Blaze Atabe, Hawaiian Island Ghost Hunters, and also Paranormal Research Society. And they actually teach courses at the Kapiolani Community College on how to do these kinds of investigations. And we're going to take a look at some of the investigations you've done in the past, right?
Yeah, some of our audio files that we have. Unfortunately, we forgot to bring the external speakers, so it's gonna have to play off the laptop. Hopefully it'll go through.
And then of course
they do have a website too, right?
Yep, their website is hawaiianislandghosthunters.com, hawaiianislandghosthunters.com.
It's scary to look at the site. Look at that.
Now, one of the things I was thinking was that because what you're doing is you're trying to show that there's a scientific way of looking at this phenomenon, and I wanted you to meet Dr. Brennan because here, and not just in Kailua but around Hawaii, there are stories. We have these stories, we have the experiences and the accounts of these experiences, and I was just thinking maybe there was opportunity for you to, go and explore. But of course, how big of a role is it to be invited to investigate?
We actually get a lot of inquiries.
So you have to be asked, though, right?
Yeah. All of our cases, we were asked to assist in whatever way. Yeah, or usually when they find out what we do, then it just leads to a story, to another story on my cousin's house or my auntie's house or my friend's house, and from there they put us in touch with them, and next thing you know, we're there investigating.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. Also, one of our protocols, we like to get permission. A lot of times when people go out into graveyards in the nighttime hours or whatnot, it's trespassing. So we have, along with the respect of all the land and all the people, we have respect for the law also. Very big,
I
Let me
appreciate that.
play this one file for you.
Which one is this?
This is the blaze.
Hopefully you can hear it. I don't know if you.
What will we be?
explain this one?
Yeah. What will
Yeah.
we be listening
For
to?
some reason, we find that things like to call Blaze's name. So on one investigation, we were this was on a recorder that was left standing alone, and we verified this by our our video recording equipment. We had a camcorder facing the voice recorder, and we also had a DVR camera in the area, so it shows that no one was in the area at the time. And about 5 minutes passed after we had walked through, and this is what we picked up. Hopefully we can hear it.
Wow. So there's nothing around. That noise didn't come from somewhere else.
No.
So
and that's the thing too, is that just by hearing that, you're gonna question, that could be anything. It could be
A dog.
the dog,
Yeah.
or the door closing or whatnot. But that's where the research side kicks in, and when we analyze that noise, what it's saying, that's where we look at the hearing range of a human, the vocal of a human. What is possible, and where that was, it's not possible for anyone to actually hear, physically hear when you're there, and it's not actual. The human voice cannot actually make that noise.
And again, just like how we were talking about, when we have evidence that we want to present, we're going to be faced with these questions that you guys asked. Or maybe it was the door closing, maybe it was a dog. That's why we take those extra steps and measures to be sure that it's not that. I mean, we've come up with cases where we had maybe about 20 possible EVPs, just tossing it back and forth between Blaze and I, or even our fellow founding member, Wayne, my cousin. We throw a lot of it out just because there's a possibility that someone could come at us, you know, with, okay, it's
With
this,
doubt
it's that.
or
And we
other-
get down from that list of 20 down to 3.
And of course, what I see is I know that you folks are really, you're happy if you can disprove it. I mean, yourselves. So you're not trying to find something.
right.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, we're not, I mean, we want to, you know, it's our goal. It's to try and capture something, but it's not what we're out to do. We're out to try and find the logical reasons for these things that people are claiming. And a lot of times we shred that claims list apart.
Well, it's hard to, when a woman sees someone, a ghost, you know, in her sewing machine moving, and, you know, I mean, you know, how do you explain something like that? And I know that you actually had some other stories about Monowili with the horses, right?
In the back of Monowili, there's the Queen's Retreat, and the oldest still standing house on the windward side, built in 1893, was constructed by William G. Irwin. That house is still there. It's built largely on a New England architectural style. It has 12-foot high ceilings. It has a fireplace from the ground up to the top, measuring about 40 feet. And some of the residents who have lived there in the past have told me that they have heard there were 2 kinds of phenomena. One was the sound of horses. And the horses would have come into Monowili mid-19th century. Ranching, cattle ranching was very common in that area. But
So
in
it could
addition,
have been, it could have been the real horses.
it could have been real horses, but because it's pretty isolated, and they watched, and the dogs were all around, and there were no other sensors which indicated to the residents that sleep at night that there was anybody in the vicinity. But the residents did hear the sound of hoofbeats passing quickly, moving on into the valley. But also, and it was from the chimney primarily. The chimney emitted a sound, or funneled a sound, which was a moaning. It was a tearful kind of moan. There are these 2 kinds of sounds which have been associated with that particular house. That house is still standing. It would be possible to put sensors around and see if even to this day there is the continuation of those phenomena.
It's still happening.
I'm saying if it is still happening, it would be possible for sensors, I think, to pick it up. But it's intriguing to me that it was from the fireplace, and the fireplace still stands. It's a large structure, and there were these 2 kinds of phenomena. I asked the people who were telling me, did it cause you to stay awake? Did you lose sleep over that? And for the most part, they said it didn't bother them, and they were able to get a good night's sleep. But it was fascinating to them. Not that it happened every day, every night, but occasionally they would hear it. Now, I live in Monowili Estates, which is right alongside the Queen's Retreat. I've been there for 31 years, and I never have heard these kinds of paranormal phenomena. And we come out of a background, having moved here from Papua New Guinea, living in the jungle, where we were surrounded by what the hosts of the area told us. There were live sounds of many kinds that were living in their cosmology. And we were sensitive to them. It wasn't like we moved here from New York City, but in these 31 years, I haven't heard myself any of these kinds of unexplainable sounds in the area where I live. And the area where I live used to be a dairy. So you might think that there could be something associated with that activity in the contact period.
Interesting. When you folks, Blaze and Preston, when you go and investigate something like this, if you were to, would you be looking back at the history of the place or as part of your research?
Yeah. Before we even do the investigation, where we actually go out and conduct the investigation, that's where we look into the history of the, whether it's a residence or a building or whatnot. Our investigators, we have about 8 investigators on hand, and usually the girls will pick up. They like to. One of our investigators, Nicole, she likes to dig into that kind of stuff, and they research the history of the location, of anything that occurred there.
The people that lived there.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So this one particular house in Maunawili where the horse hooves are heard and the moaning comes from the chimney, is that something that you could actually test for?
Oh yeah.
And how long would you have to set that up? I mean, if it occurs only periodically, how would you do that?
That's the hard thing. It's like we try to, when we speak to the clients, we try to tie in time of day, time of month. I mean, we even go down to weather patterns, moon phases, and you know, just any bit of information that can help narrow our search down. And then, I mean, like with the, I mean, this is the thought process that, you know, I know he's thinking the same thing too. But you know, we're hearing these claims. You know, one of the things that come to my mind is like, you know, horse hoofs and stuff is kind of distinct, but you're thinking if it's an older house, maybe made of wood. Just brainstorming here. This is what we do when we sit down and talk back and forth.
You actually try to
Oh,
think
yes,
of
before
all
we
the
even get there, yeah.
possible things that could explain it away.
Could be, you know, a certain time of night. They're hearing that at night. So maybe at a certain time the temperature drops, the house settles. This is big. This is a big thing that always comes up is, you know, the house settles, the wood
Shrinking or
shrinks,
expanding.
and that can make sounds of footsteps. We've actually captured that before. Just the way the wood sounds as it settles, it sounds like footsteps. The chimney, is it on?
It's wind. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is it wind at a certain time,
So-
blowing at a certain strength? You know, like when you blow on a bottle, you have that woo. Is that happening? And that's what we would look for.
And then try to duplicate it. So in a sense, you kind of go in as the biggest skeptics, in a sense, when you
Yeah,
approach
and
it.
if we're left with something unexplainable, then we shred that apart, and we look at it. Okay, there's no way that this could have, there's no way that voice could have been there because none of the team members said it, and then from there we'd go and analyze what was captured.
So then you end up with pieces like what you just shared with us, where
Right.
it was there's all of those things have been weeded out, and you're left with something.
Yeah, left still with something, and like I said, that something that's still left there, we can actually prove to you also that was nobody, that there was nobody there, and that's actually a spirit vocal or.
Of course, in context, when we have to think about, you know, this happening in context here in Hawaii. I mean, maybe there's, you know, we have, if you're left with something, and if there are spirits, and of course that's part of the I believe isn't that part of the belief system of the Hawaiian culture? So I mean, if that's there, then that also has to be taken into account too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of the first steps in the research is we hit the books, like how Dr. Hazovir, Mr. Glenn Grant's books here. We try to look at the stories that, you know, the folklore or the urban legends of the area. And I mean, if we can tie something like that, or just the way the stories go, there might be something that's mentioned often, some type of, you know, certain claim, and we can try and tie it to that. You know, we'll look at that stories and we'll say, okay, you know, it could be this, it could be that. You know, this is mentioned a lot in this area.
So that's one of our starting points too. And also, yes, we do reference back to the old stories from the Hawaiian days.
Really, yeah.